Nukne Taraknampo Josh Pokuk Josh. Welcome to the Lowdown on Lower Decks. And this week we have a very special episode because it is Klingon as Hell! Joining me, as always, my comrade in arms, my partner in crime, Mr. Chris Baboon!
Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos nuestros oyentes. I just want to make clear that I'm here because I am under the edict of unreturned favors, and so it was either this or wrestle a bear, and I'm kind of rusty in my bear wrestling skills. And it was a really big bear.
It's a very, very big bear. And also, you, our audience, are now under the right of conscription. So you must now join us on this glorious review of this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, known as A Farewell to Farms. So, wow, this was a huge episode in my opinion, but of course, I'm Klingon-centric, as we all know, so I have a built-in bias. So, what are your feelings so far, Chris?
I'm holding out for the Gorn-centric episode so I can explode in exuberance.
Well, we only have a few episodes left, so they better hurry up and get that one done. So, in the meantime, let's go ahead and let's fly and hit the lowdown on Lower Decks, folks. So, this week's episode starts in a very unusual place. We have never, in all our voyages to the Klingon homeworld of Kronos, have seen a Klingon farm. In fact, most of what we've ever seen is sometimes the houses of the homes of the great houses, the high council chambers, the occasional this or that, but we've never seen common Klingons. But the Klingon in this episode is not that common. We see the return of Captain Maha, who we were briefly introduced to. Well, not briefly, but we were introduced to this particular Klingon back in season 4, in the 2-part season finale. He was the captain of the Klingon vessel that mutinied and joined with the guy that does not look anything at all like Tom Paris. And he has apparently fallen on hard times. It turns out that after the events of that episode, he was discommendated, stripped of his command, and had to go home to the family farm where he is working with his brother. And he is not entirely happy about it, as understood. But then he starts getting calls from someone in Starfleet. And that someone, of course, is our buddy Mariner and Boimler, who apparently need his help. Chris, what's going on back at the Cerritos?
Well, thank you for asking, Josh. So back at the Cerritos, they are orbiting Paxton 4, which I can only hope is perhaps an homage to Bill Paxton. And the focus is going to be in our Beeline story plot on the ship's therapist, Miglimo. And he is about to receive a delegation from his own home planet. But let us remember that they discovered warp drive not to find just new planets, but to find new and strange new foods to savor. And so these are two really big food critics, Sir Lord Eggnog and Madame Gonald. And, he is even more nervous than when he had to fight the big giant Orion last season. And so they come on board, and he is just starstruck. I mean, these are two huge food critics, and he has prepared an exquisite meal on the replicator for them, and only to find that they find it quite distasteful. And, they walk away stormed, and he is like struck with grief. And Tendi and Rutherford say, like, what if we prepare them a home meal? And so he's like, that sounds great. I'll do that. And so we get to see the mistress of the winter constellations show off her knife skills, cutting up some veggies. And Rutherford calculates the perfect heat quotient to cook the food. And they cook for them a perfect homemade meal. It's a fish that looks like something that came out of the lake near the nuclear power plant in The Simpsons. And so they sit they sit down and they try it, and they recoil in disgust. Like, how could he dare serve this? It tastes terrible. And they're going to have him imprisoned, and not only that, but his entire family taken off the great seating chart, which is like the ultimate punishment for someone in the home world. And so Captain Freeman is taking them all back there, and things seem very glim for Miglamu. But meanwhile, Joss, what is happening back on Kronos?
Well, Maha and his brother Molar, no relation to Molor, the disgraced Klingon that was that of course Kalis the Unforgettable slew in order to found the Klingon Empire. They are having a fun night out at a popular bar on Kronos called the Warrior's Den. And there, Maha meets an old flame. And even though he is no longer a captain, she doesn't care about that. She seems to want to make some Parma Kai with our hero. But just then, Boiler and Mariner pop in, and the lady is less than impressed, shall we say, the fact that Maha has human friends. And even though Maha doesn't really think of them as friends, just people he worked with, they show up. And basically, he tells them that after the events of their adventure together, he was disgraced, discombobulated, lost his command, and Mariner says, "This will not stand. We're going to get your command back for you." And apparently, the only way to get it back is they have to appeal to the Council of the Oversight Committee in charge of military promotions. The problem with that is Maha is in bad straits with the head of that committee because his younger brother, the head of the committee's younger brother rather, was the guy who led the mutiny on Maha's ship to begin with, and Maha slew him in battle. And even though it was an honorable victory, this guy's like, nah, you're out. You're in big trouble. So Mariner, Boiler, Maha, and Malor all head over to the first city in order to, well, actually, hold on, I got to pronounce this properly for you all. Vinghuatich. In case anybody want to know what the capital of the Klingon homeworld is, it's called Vinghuatich. Okay, all right. Which literally translates into first city. Okay, so they go there. And good news is that it turns out that we run into another familiar face from an earlier episode. It's Klingon General Gorn, who we met in episode 2, season 1. Yes, he was the drunk Klingon that Mariner and Boiler had to escort. And of course, he's an old friend of Mariner's, although, what their relationship is, we don't really know. But it's a really good friendship. And so they now have, at least they figure they got one advocate, but it's not looking good here. So, Maha's appeal is denied, but apparently he can undergo the rite of conscription, which dates back to the time of Kalis, which means that you can draft anybody. And part of this is Maha has to face certain challenges that he could get his captaincy back. So the council has to agree with this, but these are very dangerous tasks. And the first one is a rite of ascension ceremony. Only the paint sticks get more paint charged up with each level. Chris, what's going on with our buddy I'm sorry, I tried to pronounce that.
So they're at the Cloacan homeworld where Dr. Miglimu is about to have one last meal before being sent to Flavor Prison But Tendi has noticed a trend in the reviews of the two celebrity food reviewers that they seem to hate everything. And so before he is sent off to prison, they, as new arrivals, are offered a welcoming appetizer. And so the celebrity critiques have it, and they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. And then Tendi reveals it can't be awesome because we replicated manure. That is not the dish. You just said that you loved manure. You are faking your reviews. And so the leader of the Cloacans goes up and smells the food, and yeah, it is like manure. And they're busted. And so they are forced to reveal at that point that they have lost their sense of taste from all the food tastings they've done, and they've been horribly embarrassed, and their embarrassment psychologically just made things even worse. And so with their secret discovered, Dr. Miglamu is once again safe, but he is very generous, and as he describes himself as a chef of the mind, he offers through many sessions, which of course will come with some high-end meals, to help them get over this psychological impasse they're having and once again be able to taste the food that they savor as food critics. So it's a happy ending for Dr. Miglimu on his home world of Cloacan.
All right. Well, that I'm glad that worked out for him. But back on Kronos, our heroes have to face the next challenge, and this is they have to subdue an extremely large targ, probably the largest one we've ever seen on Star Trek. And basically, Malar, who is the more accomplished farmer, knows what to do. They have to each grab a leg of the targ and bring it down and tie it and basically hog tie it. Okay? It's like a big rodeo. Okay? And Maha is a little bit still feeling very discouraged by the whole thing. But they manage to subdue the targ. And then they go on to the final challenge. And the final challenge is Maha must select a member of his crew, which is Malar, Mariner, and Boimler, for sacrifice. Okay? So there is a moment of heartfelt reflection between Maha and our rest of our heroes. And he explains that when he was a captain, he was directly under the command of the head of the review committee, and he doesn't really want to be a captain anymore because he doesn't want to be under that guy's command anymore. So, he has to make a choice in who they're going to sacrifice. So Maha says, I choose to sacrifice myself. So they're about to do this. But then Mariner offers to sacrifice herself, and then a battle ensues, and Maha subdues the head of the committee, but then gets stabbed in the back. Dishonorable act, but he wins. He is been basically he's defeated the guy, and he is now captain again. But he does not want to be under this guy's command, and it's agreed upon. And he chooses that he will stay on the farm with his brother, and they will continue making blood wine and bringing it to bars because it's far more honor. He's found that honor can be found anywhere, and this is true. But Mariner reveals why they were really on Kronos, and they needed his help to investigate a subspace anomaly, which Maha agrees to, and they get a whole bunch of information on it. And apparently, I think it's something that's going to play into a later plot line, because remember, the first episode of the season was they found the subspace rift where they found an alternate version where Beckett was a very cold-hearted captain. So I'm thinking that we're going to have a lot of open subspace rifts or something before this is all over. And the episode ends with Maha and his brother, living on the farm and doing, farmer stuff and just jibing with each other. So it's a very happy ending. And Chris, I think we have some thoughts on this, don't we?
Indeed, we do, Josh. I want to start off by saying that we saw something that we rarely see in Lower Decks, but they always do it so well, in that they changed up the credits for the opening scene of the episode. And it was the episode as a whole, especially that beginning, the setup is very reminiscent of the episode Brothers from Next Generation season 4, in which Picard goes back to his villa, and like he is growing grapes. In this case, they're harvesting blood wine. He has disagreements with his brother, and it's also weirdly symmetrical to Boimler when he went back to his family farm in season 2. But I loved how they redid the credits to start off a farewell to farms.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that the beginning reminded me of the beginning of the first episode of Star Trek Picard, where we see him working in the vineyards and stuff. And, it's the same thing, Maha's kicking back with some blood wine and, but it's clear that there's some part of him that wants to still be out in space somewhere, and doing his thing. But yeah, no, I think that you were exactly right with the whole conflict between Maha and Malar, that they were, clearly he's being bothered by it. And Malar, of course, jabbing at him the way that Robert jabbed at Jean-Luc, trying to get at what's bothering you, okay? And it was, yeah, he wanted the honor of being a captain again, but what had happened, he just felt like he couldn't do it again. He was out. He got screwed on this whole deal. And then, of course, Beckett showed up, and Beckett and Boimler showed up, and they helped him out. And I think that he had I think he had a great respect for them to begin with, but I think his respect really grew for our heroes in this episode. I also really like the whole subplot thing about Miglimo. Could you please pronounce his name for me? Miglimo. Thank you. And his conflict with his issue with his people. You had this whole thing where Maha was having his issues with his people over their cultural things, and Miglimo was having his. And I think that kind of joined the episode together. Really kind of a symmetry there.
I mean, how often do you see a Star Trek episode focused, at least in the B storyline, around food critics? And yet, food critics are all around us, it seems. They all have an opinion. We're all like dying to hear, like, what is the opinion about this plate or this restaurant? So I love the fact that what would happen if a food critic lost their sense of taste?
Mm-hmm.
Would they admit it? Would they continue doing the reviews, faking it? So from that standpoint, I really like this focus on the food critics. And I also love the fact that a Star Wars vet, Sam Ritwar, Darth Maul for our Star Wars fans, was one of the two Kawakan food critics in this episode.
I did not know that. That is very cool.
He also, I believe, was
no.
Maha's brother. So he did double duty in this episode.
Oh, well, look, I am a huge fan of the Star Wars animated shows, as you know, and I did like the way the direction they took Darth Maul in those shows. So, yeah, this is pretty darn awesome. If you get a chance, really meet him at a con. He's amazing. He does all these great voices on just, hopefully he will come to GalaxyCon at some point, because they do have a lot of voice talents that come there.
That would be very nice.
Yes, that would be awesome. So I did not realize that. Thank you for telling us. If I had only one criticism about this, no Talara this week.
Yeah, but in order to make room for characters, you need to sideline some, and unfortunately, it was Talon this episode. Yeah. I'd also point out we haven't seen much of the Doctor this season so far.
Yeah, no, I just realized I didn't think we've seen much of her since episode 1 this season.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure she's there. I mean, I'm just, I'm hoping we'll, maybe we'll get an episode with the both of them next week,
So, besides the fact that I'm a little disturbed now to realize exactly how they make the blood wine, because I don't think he was wearing any boots or any special equipment when he was stomping on the bloodworms. in the wine vat. So I might look at my next glass of blood wine with some caution. Um,
Yeah. I was just gonna say though, I'm glad you mentioned that because I almost forgot to point this out. That reminded me of the episode of I Love Lucy where Lucy was doing the same thing. Remember?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I love it when they do. I love it when Star Trek does shout outs to Lucy because she is Star Trek's godmother.
that's he is.
Without her, Star Trek would never have happened. So
I, I was a little disappointed that for the grand finale. I mean, I understand the way the story was written, in
mhm.
which he has the final confrontation with the head of the Oversight Council, and he invokes the right of forceful conscription, so he could kill him as a member of his crew, and therefore fulfill the ritual. But I was kind of hoping to see a Martok appearance in which the Chancellor would be like, okay, this is what I've decided. Like he is reinstated. So it seems set up for a Martok appearance, but just didn't get it.
I was gonna, mention, yeah, and I would have loved to have Martok because we just saw this past year we got to have JG Hertzler at two. Well, you didn't go with us to the con in Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Um,
Too far away.
yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, well, and also you didn't come to Shorely, but I mean, because again, that was too far away, and I agree with you there. But um, I did get to see him twice this year at both DiversityCon and Shore Leave, and I don't know. It would have been nice to have him come in and do a couple minutes of voice work. It would have also been nice um, to have Worf show up. I'm hoping that we get a. I'm hoping we get somebody that we haven't had on lower decks from DS9 or Next Generation or Voyager that we haven't seen yet. Uh, I mean, I think I hinted at the beginning that I was hoping that maybe they could find a way to get Patrick Stewart to come on for, a few scenes in that episode and have it tie in with, his work on evacuating the Romulan Empire that, of course, was alluded to in Picard. And I think at this point, because Picard is, we know Picard is an admiral now. Maybe see Captain Worf aboard the Enterprise E and get a hint on what happened to the Enterprise E under the command of Captain Worf. You there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. No, I'm okay. I'm still on this Klingon high here, but
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Oh,
So
by the way, in case
oh,
anybody's interested, Chris, do you have the pictures handy
the pictures.
from the party?
Um, I do have. Oh yes, thank you. I want to let everyone know that we had a Cardassian at a party that we
Yes.
hinted that we were going to last week.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be careful on Cardassians. They can be quite fearful, and they can be perceived as like the enemy of the Federation. But this Cardassian happened to be pretty friendly.
Yes, he was. So, um, and I think my costume worked out pretty well, but I think it still needs a little bit of work. So,
Josh, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking what might help would be a neck fan.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I'm coming up with that, and what I'm thinking of doing is making something that I could pull over my head because I know they do this whole process where they glue the sides of the neck ridges on. Um, when they're making somebody into a Cardassian. Um, the problem is I don't think I have the time to do that. And this is like kind of putting this stuff together on the fly. So I think it's going to be something easy where I could just pull it over my head and it fits onto my neck, and then you know like put it on there. But I think as we go on the next few weeks, maybe if I could work on it, we could post some pictures up here for our viewers to see how I'm coming on my new Cardassian thing.
So it would be, if we want to segue into the Gorn, it would be how the progression goes on your Cardassian cosplay. And at the same time, as the season goes along, we'll see if Boimler can achieve a full Riker-style mustache and beard.
Yeah, it would be a nice parallel between the two of them if we could do that. If they could, we could see how Boimler's facial hair goes and how my Cardassian cosplay is going to go. I think what we had so far was off to a very good start. I think the forehead piece and wig, and we will have pictures up of it soon. Um, I think it turned out pretty well, and I think we can, but I think there's room for improvement. But I think we're on the right course here.
Well, there's room for improvement in everything, but yeah, um, I like that in this that the season is not trying to move away from Boimler's facial growth attempts, and now he has like what seems to be a penciled in mustache, so it's beginning to at least attempt to set in. I mean, the large overall question is if he achieves full beardom, does that mean he automatically becomes evil?
Ooh, that's a good question. Or does he gain a Riker level style of confidence?
And does he start playing the trombone? I guess we'll find out in the episodes to come.
Well, as
But
a matter of fact, I want to make reference to something here before we get much further along about next week's episode. Next week's episode is called Starbase 80. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This
I would imagine Starbase 80 is not quite up to par, technologically speaking, with other starbases.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean we briefly saw it in what, season 3, so yeah, not exactly anyone's favorite place. So
In the previews for this season, we saw some Enterprise-style decontamination room procedures, and so I am thinking that's probably Starbase 80 because they would probably be the only place still using gel.
I think you're right. Yeah, because I don't imagine that anyone's thought to upgrade that place in a while.
Probably not.
Yeah, but you know, we are going to go back there and see it. Don't know why, don't know what's going on, but I'm very curious next week what's going to happen there. So, but at any rate, I want to make one last thought here. How would people feel about another Star Trek animated series, but this one focusing more on the Klingons?
Um, People should weigh in. I think it'd
Yeah.
probably be a little bit rough on the voices of the actors, but why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got to thinking. I mean, Michael Doran had actually come up with an idea for a Worf Star Trek series some time ago, but there didn't seem to be much interest in it. That, and basically Michael had described it as Klingon Game of Thrones. But I got to think, wouldn't it be kind of cool to make kind of a Japanese anime style Star Trek cartoon about Klingons?
I'm always in favor of anime.
Yeah, and do the fight scenes like it would be like an anime, like a Japanese anime
The,
production.
the upcoming War of the Rohirrim is filmed in an anime style.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm very familiar with that one.
It's coming out in theaters in about 3 weeks, and it is about maybe 100 years in the past in Rohan before the events of Lord of the Rings, and primarily
Yeah.
focuses on Helm's Deep when that was built. And yes, movie studio, you have my account number. Since I just mentioned you, please make sure that my payment arrives by Sunday.
Yeah, sounds fair enough. I definitely would like to see something like that. In fact, I might contact a friend of mine and see if we can get tickets to go see that. It sounds
Yeah, it's coming up pretty fast. It's this month.
Yeah. Okay. Um. So, anything else we got going on here?
Well, I would say that it seems we finally have two main storylines for the season. One is if Boimler will achieve full facial hair, and the second that we now know that it's not a fluke. Someone is actively opening up all these rifts in space-time.
Yes. And how will our crew stop this, or will they be able to stop it? I don't know. It's going to be
Better
interesting.
yet, who is doing it?
Hmm.
So I'm going to toss out something since we're
Okay.
now curious. I
Okay. I'm
think it's an
curious.
alternate universe Captain Freeman.
Could be her trying to get out of Starbase 80.
Or maybe it was what sent her to Starbase 80 to begin with. Because up until now, all these seasons, he's portrayed the righteous, like, captain who's never strayed from what Starfleet stands for. But what if we have in an alternate universe a captain who is less moral, who just like wants to do her thing, a captain who I dare I say is more Beckett than Carol Freeman, and then you'd have to have the strange position of our heroic Cerritos crew, including Mariner, having to stop her alternate universe mom.
That would be a good way to bring the series to an end. I think that yeah, I would love to see that. I think that totally. I think it's a way to do this. Uh, I got to tell you though, as I've been saying to everybody, I'm going to be really sad when this series is over.
Very true. Very true. It will be a night of 1,000 tears to take something from Star Wars.
Yes, it will be, and but the best thing we can do is enjoy it and remember we had 5 extraordinary seasons with this show, and it didn't just keep lingering, like some shows that have gone on for decades.
I was hoping for 7 seasons in a movie to take
Yes.
a line out of Community, but it seems that 5 is the new 7.
I think you're right. And I mean, there's so many possibilities, and of course, we are hoping for more Star Trek shows down the road. I mean, obviously, we've got a couple more seasons of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and Starfleet Academy has already been greenlit for a second season, and we live in hope for Star Trek Legacy with Captain Seven of Nine. So
My one thing about, well, I actually do have several things about Starfleet Academy, but well, while I was elated to hear that Tatiana Maslany is now part of the show, but I'm afraid that means that we will not get a season 2 of She-Hulk, so that makes me sad.
yeah, I mean, but I'm hoping Tatiana is going to show up in the next 2 upcoming Avengers movies as the She-Hulk.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to replace her character at all. Oh, and our producer's telling me that she was at Rhode Island Comic Con. Don't know the details of that. Sorry, we did not get. Yeah, okay, it was last weekend. So, I mean, I'd like to know more details if she's going to reprise as the She-Hulk in an Avengers movie. I mean, it would make sense because if we're starting to replace the original, if we're replacing the original team with different characters, She-Hulk taking over for Hulk would make a lot of sense. But that's a Marvel thing, so, and we're still Star Trek, so um uh oh, apparently our producer said she was quite tight-lipped about the Marvel stuff. So
NDAs.
yeah, so I don't know what that means, but maybe she doesn't know. Things change. Things are up in the air. I mean, a decade ago they said that Chatham Tatum was going to be Gambit, then suddenly Disney bought 20th Century, and Marvel said they wanted to go in another direction, but then they had Chatham Tatum playing Gambit in the Deadpool movie, and it looks like everybody wants it to play Gambit now. So who knows? You
Which
know,
is a good reminder for all our people out there that in about a week, or maybe even less, I think it's, as I'm looking right here, we will have Deadpool and Wolverine released on Disney Plus for streaming for those of you who have Disney Plus.
yes, and that's a welcome thing to do on my birthday, which is a week from today, by the way.
Perfect. I assume that on your birthday, you will slaughter so many of your enemies that their bloods will run like a river, and we will hear on the wind the collective lamentations of all their family members.
Yes, we will. But I'm also having dinner with my mom.
Ah,
So
okay. All right.
we will be coming to you, in a different time schedule, which we will work out because it is my birthday and I want to spend the evening with my mom. Sadly, she's not enough of a Trekkie to want to come on the show with us and chat, but, We thought about it. So just gonna go have dinner with my mom, and we will find a different time schedule which we will appear. But we are thankful to you all for joining us this evening, and we hope that we will hear more comments, and you know, reach out to us. The show will be on YouTube and other places, so please reach out, talk to us for a minute, and tell us your thoughts about this week's episode, or the direction of this final season of Lower Decks, or what you might want to see in future Star Trek shows. Um, right now, of course, we're on live stream, but on YouTube and Facebook and other. And Chris, you got anything else?
I will just say that I am wondering what will happen with Ransom. Wondering what's going to happen to Lon. As you know, so you mentioned before, Rutherford and going to get together with the Mistress of the Winter Constellations. So many questions, so few episodes, but stay with us as we all together try to find out.
Yes, indeed. Well, folks, it's time to bring this starship into space dock, and it's Friday night, so I'm going to kick back with a little blood wine and watch some Star Trek reruns or something. And meantime, we will see you again next week for our next episode of Lower Down on Lower Decks. Until then, I remain Josh, son of Josh. Live long and prosper, and kapla!
And I am Chris Pavon. You may find me at Vivid Cosplay. If you are a cosplayer in the DC area, quite possibly you may be on my feed. And thank you to all our veterans out there, whether it be from the Dominion War to other conflicts. Thank you very much for your service, and may you have a very restful Monday.
Indeed. Thank you for your service. Good night.
Good night.